to discuss an update of negotiations. No action was taken. I will now call to order the regular meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education, and will be led in the pledge by our Assistant Clerk, Kurt Rockwell.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It's always so much more powerful when we have a full house coming back at us with that sound, isn't it? We will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Item 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes, Mr. Ferris.
Then we will move into item 2, the approval of the minutes. If there are no objections or no corrections, they will stand as presented. And move us into programs and presentations. Just in case you haven't noticed, we do have some guests in the room tonight, and we are very honored to have the Burroughs High School Drama and Music Department, who are preparing the production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella to be performed at the Parker Performing Arts Center on March 10th, 11th, 17th, and 18th. The students are excited to share their favorite selection, Do I Love You, this evening. This is under the cooperative direction of Ms. Peterson and Ms. Eileen Poole. We're going to excuse ourselves to come down and join you so we can be on the right side of this sound, and you folks can locate yourselves as well. Thank you so much, students. That was pretty much amazing. Wouldn't you all agree? Yeah? One more time? Yeah. Well, it pretty much goes downhill from there. Next item on the agenda is public hearings. There are no public hearings, so we move right into reports and communication. The first report will be our student members report. Regina Safey, our student member, is out representing Burroughs because she's a wrestling champ. So we'll have an appropriate substitute, Mr. Rockwell.
I'm every bit as pretty as she is. So, Murray Middle School, downhill fast. Right? January ended with ASB celebrating the Lunar New Year with spirit days and activities, and February began with our Candyland dance. A second kindness party recognized more than 100 students who went above and beyond to make the campus better. Tuesday, students celebrated Valentine's Day wearing hearts pink and white. Next week, pre-sale and discounted tickets are available to students who are maintaining good grades, attendance, and behavior. Families are invited to watch The Addams Family with their children at Murray as part of our Family Night and PTSO fundraiser. Classically, this is a challenging time academically as students finish the third quarter and look forward to the fourth quarter with state testing just around the corner. Advisories are being specifically designed by teachers in grade level meetings to optimize intervention and support students in academic development in this cycle. In the world of sports, the basketball season will see its final games in the coming weeks. And M&M Cross Country is back out and running. To prepare for the Junior Olympics event, new runners are encouraged as long as they bring a permission form. Go Mustangs. James Monroe Middle School. There's never a dull moment at James Monroe Middle School. In the last month, we have celebrated a week of kindness, had a dance, multiple basketball games and spirit days, and a pep rally. The PE department is preparing for 7th grade physical fitness testing, and we are just getting our Junior Olympics activities started in preparation for the city meet in April. In the next week, our students will begin a new rotation of academic intervention and enrichment, which will carry us through spring break. Finally, PBIS is rolling right along with our store open every other week for students to cash in their points, but we are always in need of donations and incentives. Mesquite High School. We are having a very successful third quarter here at Mesquite. Our second credit check of the third quarter was today. We have had 5 graduates with a total of 24 graduates so far this year. Fantastic. In ASB, the third quarter is off to a busy start with spirit days and prom planning. Universal Technical Institute, with the challenging acronym of UTI, gave a presentation to the Mesquite community. UTI prepares students for careers in energy, transportation, and manufacturing industries. Many students expressed an interest in attending UTI after the presentation. We're planning our third community for the third quarter in March. During our community, we will be honoring our honor roll students for the third quarter, as well as our Golden Dragon students. We will also be giving our seniors who are close to graduating their 30 more and out the door shirts to encourage them during their last classes at Mesquite. And finally, Sherman E. Burroughs High School. February promises to be an exciting month. On Valentine's, we had Dynamic Duo Day where students paired up with each other to match outfits or dressed up as an iconic pair. The 24th will be Love is Respect Day, where students are encouraged to wear orange in support of Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. February 27th to March 3rd will be a space-themed spring rally week ending with a rally recognizing spring sports as well as the Blacklight Dance on Friday. The prom court will also be announced at the spring rally. There will be space-themed spirit days throughout the week, including alien abduction, where students can dress in PJs as if they were abducted from their bed. Out of This World, where students can dress in anything space-related. Back to the Future, which will be dressing futuristic or like the past, as in what Mr. Ferris used to wear. And Glow Out, where students are encouraged to wear neon and or shades. Sports are transitioning from winter to spring. Wrestling Mojave River League Championships were on February 3rd. The girls team did outstanding with 3 BHS wrestlers earning first place, 1 earning second, and 2 earning third. The BHS girls team earned second place overall. The boys wrestlers earned 2 third-place spots, and both the girls and boys wrestling teams received the Most Team Spirit Award. Way to go, wrestlers. Girls basketball made CIF playoffs with their first home game against Pillabos High School. Boys basketball had a good season, but unfortunately just missed the CIF playoffs. Boys and girls soccer finished out their season with their last league game and had a well-played and hard-fought season. Track, swim, softball, baseball, boys tennis, and golf are holding preseason practices in anticipation of the upcoming spring sports season. Yearbook and news writing are hard at work meeting deadlines for this year's yearbook production, as well as the school's blockbuster. In addition, Winter Guard and Drumline will soon be in session. As Mr. Ferris said earlier, but reminders are always good, Borough's drama and music departments are also working together to get ready for the spring musical Cinderella, which will be held on March 10th, 11th, 17th, and 18th. Thank you to all our great students doing great things.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. Unlike our student member, you will not be allowed to leave early tonight. And what do you mean, used to wear? That brings us to reports from members of the board. Any board members have reports they'd like to make? I just wanted to make one note of encouragement. Registration, I believe, is still open for the statewide CSBA Ledge Action Week, and it is being done remotely, so you don't have to travel to Sacramento. I would encourage you to check that out and enroll. They do a good job of training us how to work with our legislators to make an impression on the important things that we want to stand for as an organization on behalf of education in our state. So it's important work. If we can at all participate, I'd encourage you to do so. That brings us to Superintendent's report. Dr. Ostash.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. First of all, before I get started on my report, I know we've been talking for months and months now about the additional monies that school districts are getting, including Sarah Sands, to really revitalize and take music and arts to the next level. And it's just great to see it come to life, to hear the beautiful voices and the music, and to see the great, the growth trajectory that we're on, clearly. The great instruction we're getting and the student involvement, and it just blows me away that we have that $2 million in the block grant, the $800,000 ongoing annually with the Prop 28 money. Just great things to come in Sarah Sands for arts and music. I'm so excited about it, and it just struck me. I was like, we've been talking about this for months, and yet we get to hear those beautiful voices. So just great things. Okay, month 5 enrollment report is good. It's 5,062 students. Last year this time was 4,945, so we were up 117 students. Some remarks have been made about our own student board member, Regina Safey, is not here. I just want to give a little bit more details to give her some props. She's not here because, as has been mentioned, she's successful in wrestling. She's actually at the Girls Wrestling Masters Tournament. Some of you may have seen in the Daily Independent a couple of articles highlighting her success. On February 3rd, she won the championship in the 126 weight class at the Mojave River League final meet. Regina and 8 of her teammates actually qualified for CIF, and 3 of them are moving on to Masters. And I just wanted to highlight that Regina, Coach Paul Williams had commented and said she actually has a really good shot at advancing to the state tournament, which will begin on the 23rd. So we wish Regina great luck, and can't wait to see what her next step is. I wanted to highlight that February 6th through 10 was the National School Counseling Week. We appreciate our school counselors. They play such a critically important role in the lives of our students and partner with all of our other great employees, certificated and classified. And I just also wanted to highlight something that we've talked quite a bit about, that several years ago we recognized the importance of counseling. And so we've made, and the board approved, a voluntary approach. We dedicated quite a bit of money from our LCAP, our Local Control Accountability Plan, the funds that we have local control over. And $5 million of those dollars are what's called supplementary dollars. Well, we made a decision after some federal and state grants some years ago to help bring in some temporary additional counseling. We made a choice. We chose to put a full-time counselor at every one of our 6 elementary schools. And that is a choice. That's not state funded. It's something that we choose to invest from that pot of money. We also have additional counseling at both of our middle schools out of our LCAP, And there are current discussions happening about the possibility of adding a counselor or two at Burroughs next year. So more to come on that. That part of it is not decisional, but I just wanted to highlight that it's nice to recognize our school counselors in a counseling week, but it's even more important to understand that Sierra Sands has a deep appreciation and acknowledgement that counseling is vital in the schools, and we choose to invest quite a bit of our LCAP dollars to support additional counseling that is not funded by the state. I want to just highlight that our elementary music advisory team met yesterday. I appreciate Dr. Savko leading this advisory team and allowing for such a strong collaboration so that music teachers and general education and special education teachers throughout the district and staff members are really interested in this. We even have some former music teachers in the community who are just really vested in the success of our community's music programs. Some of the topics at these advisory team meetings include recruitment, both internally and externally for teachers, looking at textbook and instructional materials, inventory of existing materials, various implementation details, and I just know there's really great work going on, and I'm super excited to see the elementary music program lift up and be implemented starting in August of this calendar year. I also want to highlight we held our annual Sierra Sands Unified School District Spelling Bee. I'm appreciative to Mrs. Decker who helps lead the effort on this. And it took place on Wednesday, January 25 at 6:30 in the evening at Gateway Elementary School, and it was Gateway's own who actually won it this year, Nathan Crutchfield, a 5th grader, and all reports point to Nathan being quite a calm, cool, and collected young man throughout the whole competition, so that was cool. And one last thing, very excited to announce to the board and to the community that the Richmond School construction project has been in the works for a long time. You know, these OLDCC grant program funds require an enormous amount of work. You know, it's kind of the glacier under the water. And once you start actually building, that becomes kind of the fun and even the shorter end of the project. But we're at that point. So next week on Tuesday, February 21, marks the first day that we officially begin the physical construction phase of the project. It's called Grub and Clear, where we pick up all the trash and remove bushes so that excavation can begin the following week. And so, you know, we're going to see work visible on our construction site out there on Ridgecrest and Richmond Roads just next week. And we are currently planning a date sometime in April to hold a groundbreaking ceremony. And we're picking that time frame somewhere in the first couple weeks of April because we've been informed that some members of the OLDCC team are planning to come out and make a visit anyways. So we want to kind of honor their resources and their time and efficiency by integrating that time frame. So more details to come to the board. Kind of look at those first 2 weeks of April. We'll of course be in touch with you, but that's where we're tentatively looking to do a ceremonial groundbreaking ceremony. That was redundant, a ceremonial groundbreaking event, I should say. Okay, that is my report, Mr. Ferris. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ostash, even if you are redundant. I mean, if you speak with redundancy, I don't mean you are redundant. We move to reports to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association. Would that be you, Ms. Poole?
I'm pretty sure you can see me in my red coat, which I should have taken off before walking up here. Good evening. Good evening. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to start by saying that the kids sounded really great, and I have nothing to do with their singing, but I still felt really proud. And I just want to let you all know they can also dance when they're singing. It's pretty impressive. So if you want to see that, and they do some pretty awesome acting, please come to the play. I'll be there up front saying every line and singing every song because I'm always really nervous, and they come through, but I'm still really nervous. Anyway, they were terrific. Okay, let's see. It's kind of the same old thing. There's a lot of pressure on teachers, our classes are crowded, we're understaffed, which we all know that's true everywhere. We have a lot of behavior issues, we have testing, we have adjunct duties. I wanted to speak one more time about adjunct duties because I've been thinking a lot about it, and I don't know any other profession that has that type of thing. And so I was thinking about my family and the people that I know, and my very oldest daughter has her own business, and she just hired her husband. So he's going to do whatever he's told. No union there. But then I was thinking my other daughter is a teacher in the district, but my youngest is a veterinarian. 4 years of college, 4 years of veterinary school, and she and her husband both are veterinarians, and they're very respected, and they go into work and they do their job, and it's a demanding emotional job, and then they go home to their family, and they're not asked to direct the traffic in the parking lot or to attend any kind of event. And I don't see any other profession that has the adjunct duties that we have, and if we could have them reduced, just reduce some, it would be really great. I'm not sure how many people are aware of all the hours that we put in. So then I just want to end once again saying we want to be listened to. We're the experts in our classroom, and we'd like to have that recognized. We'd like to have our class size reduced. Everybody wins with that one. And again, I know that all of us here, you on the board, you, Dr. Ostash, we all have the same goal, right? We all truly, really, genuinely care about the kids and getting the best, and then the issues arise and how we see that. And so hopefully we can keep working together as we have and maybe make a lot of us happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is on item 5, report for Board of Trustees from the California School Employees Association. Do we have a representative here tonight? Thank you.
Hello, school board president, board members, superintendent, Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. It was recently brought to our attention that the numbers of classified staff sit about 275, which is down from our August numbers, which were reported at 355. Unless the reports that we are getting from the district in their AB 119 report are wrong, that is a huge loss of employees of classified staff. As of yesterday, we had roughly 25 job openings, and we still have many jobs that are open until filled. We are continuously losing employees due to our subpar pay, in which we are not even competitive with fast food. I'm constantly getting emails from my members about the lack of support and lack of employees, which results in being overworked and frustrated. It is hard for me to continue to justify these employees staying with the district when in reality they could go work at fast food, make more money with less stress. CSEA hopes as we enter into negotiations with the district that we can make some improvement on our pay scale to retain our current qualified dedicated employees and to continue working for the district, and also to entice new hires to want to work for the district and not fast food. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, but if appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the bylaws, the board will limit the total time for public comment to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond that 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda. I now open for public comment.
Hi, my name is Kathy McCoy. I'm a teacher at Pierce. I wanted to address the fact that we have been down by 1 custodian since January 24th, and we have 2, which means that we are not getting rooms vacuumed. We are emptying our own garbage. our principals are mopping the cafeteria floors, our teachers are wiping down the tables, and the bathrooms are not getting cleaned as much as they should. Sometimes the kids go out to use them and they're locked because there's been a mess made and there's no one to get to it, and so we have to find a different bathroom for them to use. And I know the district was working to find a substitute for our custodian, but that apparently hasn't happened. So I'd kind of like to piggyback on what Sylvia said, that this is not competitive. We're not, if we can't get people to do the job, we're doing it, and that's great. It's great that people are willing to step up and help, but we all have our own jobs to do as well. And so then those things aren't getting done. So I want to piggyback on that and say that we need to have a more competitive wage so that we can keep people. We also are down noon duties regularly, which means we don't have as much supervision for the kids, which also sometimes leads to some shenanigans. We don't have paras to help in some of our classrooms. If one is gone, there aren't subs. So I would, again, just like to reiterate that we need a more competitive salary for those people so that they can do their job. We can get people there who want to be there and feel like they are being respected and are working with the rest of us. They're not just someone who is going from mess to mess to mess, trying frantically to clean the school or do whatever. And I think that, well, I know all of the teachers would appreciate having fully staffed schools. And so I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I kind of have something similar to her. Good evening, board members, coworkers, and the public. I'm Abel Galvan, 719 East Ridgecrest Boulevard. Vice President of the CSEA Ridgecrest Chapter 188 and a custodian of 4 years. Classified staff are growing more sparse by the day. The current open employment opportunities are 14 paraprofessional positions, 3 noon duty supervisor positions, 1 child nutrition service worker, 1 crossing guard. But those can mean so much more to each site. To give everyone here a better idea of what I'm meaning, fully realized, 3 paras can make up coverage for 1 moderate SPED classroom, 3 for a moderate to severe, and the numbers just keep growing after that. 3 noon duties can give a bare bones amount of coverage on a good day. For all other days, you would need at least 4, maybe. 5 would be best. I'm sure this isn't any news to any of you board members. I trust you know. You see it when visiting school sites. And also might wonder, like most of us in our district, what can we do to fix it? How and where do we start on fixing these issues? Obviously, many of us would like a balancing of the pay scales. But I truly wish it were as simple as that. During our last board meeting, Dr. Ostash echoed an issue we face daily. Some of our kiddos in these classes plainly just aren't interested in cooperating by defying whatever we ask them to do, however small of a request. And acknowledging that is a very much needed start. We all appreciate it deeply, truly. If it were easy, we would have solved it by now. Many of us classified staff see how hard our admin and teachers and our paraprofessionals work. These staff members working alongside these teachers, both SPED or otherwise, are working just as hard to resolve the issue day by day. If you have stepped into one of our SPED classrooms, I'm sure you've seen the impact the paras have on these kiddos, education and personality. I loved being a para, personally, a few years ago. Oh, oh my goodness. All right. I ended up dropping that so I could be a custodian, and it didn't solve my issues in the slightest. I guess that's all I have time for. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Hi, everybody. My name is Connie Abshire, and I've been teaching at Murray Middle School for 19 years. A class size of 35 middle schoolers in a history class is too many, but 35 students in any classroom is too many to meet their academic, their social, and their emotional needs. There is no RSP support in our huge history and science classes, but we have a lot of reading and writing, including essays. It would benefit everyone to piggyback off of that for there to be RSP support in any of these classes and all of these classes. The district has a responsibility to do everything it can to support its experts, the teachers, so that we can then do everything we can to support our kids. As my email to you guys last month stated, we still need basic help, even with the most basic of things of behavior and supports with discipline. The go-to answer I keep hearing, though, is that it's now socially acceptable for these behaviors in the new normal. What a ridiculous excuse to not even try to do what is right. We can't control everything, but we can control what we expect of our kids and make sure that they're taken care of. There are things that you as the district can do. You can make our classes smaller. You can support the teachers, whether they're new or old and experienced. You can stop putting overages in our classes. You can put para support in classes of more than 25 kids. And you can have consequences on our campus when they misbehave. Anyone who hides behind the excuse of social norms instead of standing up for social responsibility should be ashamed of themselves.
Thank you.
Nadine Steichen, 843 West Howell Avenue. My thoughts aren't particularly organized tonight, but I did want to come to the mic simply because we want to encourage communication across the board from all levels, all levels employees, all types of employees. So I'm going to build a little bit on what I said at the last meeting. I went back to 2008 the last time, and I decided, that's not valid. The thing that is valid is the moment that we're in right now, and we have turnover on the board, which is nice. It's nice to see new faces. We're going to have new turnover at the administrative level, and we welcome change. But I was interested to hear the language of new normal because I'm afraid of that. I'm very much afraid of accepting a new normal that gives up on some of the standards that we have set in this valley. COVID was incredible and it was devastating. I sat in meetings where people were crying because they didn't have the support they needed, and now we're trying to come out of COVID and we're trying to see positive trends, and I'm still hearing people who are in a state of panic because they don't have the support that they need. So the new normal should not be acceptance of the loss of a teacher's prep period. That frightens me to death because I feel like that was over a number of years that teachers got that prep period because they needed it, and now there's this expectation somehow that we can give up a prep period, and I'm just a slow worker, so I need more than one prep period sometimes. But so I think it's pieces of the puzzle, right? You know that we've got all these different employees that are important, and we all recognize that. So I think my original intention today was to address the board goals and ask you to truly prioritize and ask yourselves, how can we solve these extreme challenges that we have? And I do believe it's examining the overall budget. We had a representative from the Lancaster-Palmdale area used to use the expression reprioritizing a budget, and she said, oh, that's a whole different process. But I do think the crisis that we have forces us to do that. And it's the task that you have accepted by being on the board. So I would look at number 5, goal number 5, which is develop, value, and retain a high-quality, diverse educational team. It's crucial, and we've got holes, and we've got gaps in that team, which are leading to safety issues, leading to educational issues, et cetera. And I remember coming to listen to the board members who speaking before the election, and they spoke to the budget and safety. So I would just put those 2 issues out there as a closing thought: the overall budget and safety and education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any others wishing to address the board at this time? If not, we will move to Educational Administration, 6.1, approval of Spectrum non-public school services. Mr. Delbeck.
President Ferris, members of the board, Dr. Ostash, fellow staff, and community members. Item 6.1 is approval of Spectrum non-public school services and background information. The reauthorization of Individuals with Disabilities Educational Act, IDEA, was signed into law on December 3rd, 2004. The provisions of the act became effective on July 1, 2005, and the final regulations were published on August 14, 2006. The IDEA requires school districts to provide students who qualify for special education with free and appropriate public education that meets the needs of students with disabilities. According to IDEA, the term free appropriate public education means special education and related services, A, have been provided at public expense, under public supervision and direction, and without charge. B, meets standard of state educational agency. C, includes an appropriate preschool, elementary, or secondary school education in the state and involved in. D, are provided in conformity with individual education program required under Section 614D. Under the regulations and pending the IDEA, each public agency must ensure that a continuum of alternative placements is available to meet the needs of children with disabilities for special education and related services. This continuum must, number 1, include the alternative placements listed in the definition of special education under Section 300.38, include instruction in regular classes, special classes, special schools, home instruction, and instruction in home and hospitals and institutions, and 2, make provisions for supplementary services such as resource room or itinerant instruction to be provided in conjunction with regular class placement. The IDEA includes private school students and states that children placed to or referred to private schools by school districts are provided special education-related services in accordance with IEP programs at no cost to their parents. The regulations in implementing the IDEA also include provisions related to students placed in residential treatment facilities. Specifically, the regulations provide that a placement in a public or private residential program is necessary to provide special education and related services to a student with disability. The program, including non-medical care and room and board, must be at no cost to the parents of the child. The regulations require school districts to provide related services that may be necessary to enable the student to receive a free and appropriate public education. The regulations define that related services such as transportation and such developmental, corrective, and other supportive services are required to assist a child with a disability to benefit from special education and include speech and language pathology and audiological services, interpreting services, including rehabilitation, counseling, orientation, mobility, and medical services for diagnostic or evaluation purposes. Related services also include school health services and school nurse services, school social work in schools, and parent counseling and training. Current considerations. Currently, there are 296 California Department of Education approved non-public schools throughout the state of California and throughout the United States. There is one non-public school in Kern County. This non-public school has a 6 to 8 month waiting list. The closest non-public school to Sierra Sands is in Lancaster, California. It's approximately a 2-hour drive each way to school. Sierra Sands has 2 students currently placed in the non-public school in Lancaster, a total cost for both students of $580,000, which includes all services and transportation for the students. The district would like to contract with Spectrum Center non-public schools to open an elementary non-public school classroom on the Pierce campus, elementary campus for the 2023-24 school year. Spectrum Center Schools and Programs is a California Department of Education approved non-public school provider with 17 existing sites in California. Spectrum has over 45 years experience serving students from over 100 districts. Spectrum Center's mission and vision statement is as follows: all students have value, can learn, and can develop their inherent talents to become contributing members of society. We provide personalized, evidence-based education services for non-traditional learners in collaboration with families, public school districts. Spectrum Schools would operate a non-public school for Sierra Sands at a total cost of $462,000 for up to 12 students. Per student, it costs approximately up to $38,500 or more of less than 12 students. The financial implications: the annual cost of the contract with Spectrum Schools for the 23-24 school year would be $462,000. This figure reflects the cost for 1 program director, 1 teacher, 3 paraprofessionals, all related services and transportation necessary to provide students with FAPE would be provided by Sierra Sands Unified Service Providers. If Sierra Sands decided to use Spectrum Schools for transportation based on 8 students, the cost would be $112,000. For funds for the Spectrum Center schools, classrooms on an SSUSD campus would come from the special education budget. Superintendent's recommendation is recommended that the board approve the contract with Spectrum Center schools for the 22-23 school year as presented.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any questions or comments from our board members? Kurt? Mary?
Are they going to be able to hire paraprofessionals to do that? I mean,
Yeah, I can answer that. So that's why we contract out with them. They do. They operate schools throughout the state of California. We, a fellow SELPA in Shasta, they opened one up there. They can offer different things that school districts can't count. We can travel, just different things. So it's a private corporation, and that's why we contract with them. So the contract is based on they get 3 paraprofessionals, a teacher, and then assuming in their model, one of the paraprofessionals has a bachelor's, so they can be a substitute if that teacher's out. So it's a self-sustaining classroom, and there's a program director, usually when there's a couple classrooms, so there'd probably be a part-time program director that would work with the classroom and with the school, so the kids would get services on our campus instead of being bused elsewhere.
Kurt, go ahead. Okay, any other questions, comments from board members? I just wanted to comment that I really appreciate, we've been, in the last several years, we've been dealing more and more with these circumstances, and they obviously are very difficult, very costly. And I appreciate the dedication and the ingenuity to put a plan together like this to make the best out of a situation, and in the end, save the district quite a few dollars in bringing it to our community. I know it didn't just happen without a lot of effort, so thank you for that effort. Do we have any questions or comments from members of the public or the community? If you do have a question or comment, please come up to the microphone, identify yourself, and ask your question or make your comment. Thank you.
My name is Kathy McCoy, teacher at Pierce. I think that this is a fabulous idea. Are we back on? There we go. 3 paras does not seem like enough to me. I know that's what's contracted, but my comment based on if these are students who need a little more help and structure than what our SDCs are currently able to give, they currently have ratios of 3 paras or 4 paras per student. My personal opinion and what I think would make it be more successful would be looking at having more than just 3 paras, because we want those paras to not feel like overwhelmed or not feel like they're having to go in every direction. I think having more adults in that room to be able to help those students stay successful and stay on task and doing their learning and having successful interactions with others. So that is just my thought, that more paras would be even better, and that would also help them to be able to work at a smaller group of students at a time. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments on that, Mr. Delbeck?
Yeah, thank you. And that is a concern, and one of the concerns would be those are the 3 classroom-based behavioralists or where that will be working in that class. You know, I mean, I don't know that we should call them paraprofessional because they're trained in behavior. And with that, every kid is a IEP decision. If a student has a one-on-one service, that would be provided in addition to that. But the classroom itself would start off, you know, if we only have 2 kids then that start in there, there's no reason to start with more than 3 paraprofessionals in the classroom. But yes, your point's very well taken, and I hope I answered that to a decent way. I mean, best that I can, because it's new to all this. It's new to me. But that's a very good question, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the public? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to 6.2, approval of Financial Algebra 1 course. Dr. Savko.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff and community. The purpose of the Financial Algebra 1 course is to support students in making sense of the financial world around them and to effectively manage fiscal resources through meaningful mathematical modeling. Students will study functions and relations with strong attention given to graphing functions, statistics, and data analysis. Emphasis is on the use of mathematics to model and explore real-world financial phenomena, including interpreting and justifying reasoning to make data-supported financial decisions. Students master simplifying, solving and graphing linear, quadratic, and exponential expressions, equations, and functions. Students will show proficiency with linear and higher degree distributions and work with radical expressions and use graphing calculators and apps to explore relations between functions and their graphs and perform statistical analyses. The content of the course will comprise of 5 units of instruction. Unit 1, relationships between quantities and reasoning with equations. Unit 2, linear and exponential relationships. Unit 3, expressions and equations. Unit 4, descriptive statistics and exponential model. And Unit 5, linear functions and modeling. The A through G college entrance requirements are a sequence of high school courses that students must complete with a grade of C or better to be minimally eligible for admission to the University of California and California State University. They represent the basic level of academic preparation that high school students should achieve to undertake university work. Financial Algebra 1 meets the C mathematics requirement. In February 2023, the course outline was submitted to and approved by the University of California Doorways. The course outline is included in the board packet for review. The addition of Financial Algebra 1 increases the high school's capacity to offer additional mathematics courses, as well as rigorous courses which support college and career readiness. There will be a cost associated with the purchase of instructional materials. This assumes the board's approval. The source will be the general fund. It's recommended that the board approve Financial Algebra 1 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Have any questions or comments from board members? Kurt.
Yeah, a couple. Forgive me, my memory's not great. And I apologize for asking you questions. It sounds like you're a little challenged tonight. Sorry about that.
Every day in every way.
Yeah, yeah, so I can resemble that remark. We've talked in the past about, kind of a blank check for these classes, meaning there will be a cost, it will be general fund, but without a understanding of what the cost would look like. Can you explain one more time to me, so maybe I'll remember it this time, why it's not clear what the cost is?
So per our board policy and administrative regulation about the selection of instructional materials, I believe it's 6161.1. I dabble in that constantly, right? That's my role in the district. So the first progression is that we approve a course outline. And so that's what the function is tonight. And I can't give an estimate without this being approved, but I can give you information that I know. So you may recall that last year, the board approved Algebra 2, Financial Algebra 2. And because of its success and with the textbook would actually be used for this course as well. It would be the early chapters, and then Financial Algebra 2 would be the subsequent chapters. And I can't recall what the cost was. It really will depend on how many sections of Financial Algebra 1 we have. We think we might have 2, maybe 3. So assuming, 30 texts per section, we always purchase 10% more, so we have sufficient textbooks. Generally, textbooks are running $75 to maybe $105 per text, if I recall accurately. So that's the best guesstimate. I wouldn't call it an estimate that I can provide tonight. But that's why I don't get into specifics at this function.
Okay, thank you. I think it's still helpful. I mean, if you know what the textbook is and you know how many you're projecting, then that sort of gives you the basis for some kind of dollar value that is at least worth talking about, I think. So thank you for running those through. You helped me. I was trying to remember, we just approved one about a year ago. And
yes.
So my question was going to be, how successful is it? And, sounds like going great.
Yes, I thank you for the opportunity to expand on that. So this year was our first implementation of Financial Algebra 2. And I want to thank the borough's math department for inviting me and others to observe the students' first semester finals. And so what they did was they presented different analyses of a real world function. So one of the students presented their information. They went to 3 different banks or credit unions in the community to research purchasing a used car at, the assumption would be $10,000, and what would be the financial costs to get a loan, and what would the rates be. Other students presented, credit acts, personal loans for, credit cards, because we have a kind of credit card or debt phenomena in the United States. The students are doing very well in our Financial Algebra 2 sections. They're really appreciating that real-world application, and it's decreasing our DNF rates and increasing our passing rates in these courses. And so based on that information, both qualitative and quantitative, our DNF rates, the math department approached administration and myself and recommended that we also begin this love for mathematical application in the real world in Algebra 1, as that's a significant area of need.
Yeah, great, thank you. And my earlier questions about the economics of it were just really to understand the economics of it. I think it's definitely worth the investment.
Yes,
Just
sir.
wanted to know what the investment was. That's all I had, thanks.
Any other questions, comments from board members?
I don't have a question, but I like the idea of math in the real world. To me, I had my days of math and a lot of letters.
Any other question or comment from board members? I just wanted to comment that when you read the basis of it, the purpose of the Financial Algebra 1 course is to support making sense of financial world around them and to effectively manage fiscal resources. I was wondering if maybe we ought to recommend this to the legislatures. Any comments or questions by members of the community or staff? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to 6.3, report of the 2022 California School Dashboard Results and Differentiated Assistance. Dr. Safko again.
I'm going to provide an extensive background because it really matters in making meaning out of accountability as it relates to how districts and schools are held accountable. So based on the 2013 local control funding formula, California's accountability system is comprised of multiple measures. The measures are used to determine LEA, or local education agency, and school progress toward meeting the needs of their students. The California School Dashboard is an integral component of the Accountability and Continuous Improvement System. It reports performance and progress on both state and local indicators. The 6 state indicators are comprised of high school graduation rate, academic performance, suspension rate, English learner progress, preparation for college career, and chronic absenteeism. 5 local indicators include basic conditions, implementation of state academic standards, parent engagement, school climate, and course access. California's system of support provides 3 levels of support to LEAs and schools. The first level, general assistance, is made up of resources and assistance that are available to all LEAs and schools. The second level of assistance, known as differentiated assistance, or DA, is targeted support that's available to LEAs that meet the eligibility requirements set by the State Board of Education. The third level of support, intensive intervention, may be provided to LEAs that are identified as having persistent performance issues and a lack of improvement over 4 consecutive years. The 2022 California School Dashboard student outcomes for Sierra Sands have resulted in support under differentiated assistance. The district is required to review dashboard performance data to identify areas of success, areas in need of improvement, and identify action to address needs. The Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP, should address district goals and actions toward improving and sustaining student outcomes as identified in the dashboard. There aren't any financial implications yet. That will be in our LCAP, right, when we decide on what our needs are. And this presentation that I'm about to provide you is for informational and reporting purposes, and it does not require board action. My friends in the tech booth, can you project the PDF? I think that's a universal symbol for, I don't know. I think the board packet's posted on our website, and we could possibly download the PDF and project it. If not, that's okay. Does the board have the
We do.
presentation? Okay. So California's School Accountability System and dashboard has essentially 4 core messages. It's made up of multiple measures, because in the past it was just an academic measure, if you recall, adequate yearly progress and academic performance index under No Child Left Behind. It's a focus on equity, so really thinking about how local decisions can impact student groups who experience significant barriers. It supports local decision-making, as evidenced through our Local Control Accountability Plan, and it's focused on continuous improvement versus shame and blame. So what are the dashboard indicators? There are 7 state indicators. 1 is chronic absenteeism, then it's suspension rate, English learner progress, graduation rate, college and career readiness indicator, which was not reported on this dashboard because it's a reset, English language arts assessments, and math assessments. And the local indicators are as follows: basic services, implementation of academic standards, parent engagement, local climate survey, and broad course access. When the board considers the approval of the local control accountability plan in late June, you also approve our measures of local indicators, and then they're submitted to the state for approval. Okay. All right, California School Dashboard State Indicators. This is a unique year in how those indicators are communicated. In your board packet, you'll see that the state is calling these cell phone bars. They wanted a universal way to explain progress. So bear with me here, okay? The color's purple, so that way there wasn't any indicator of positive or negative, right? It's just the state of the progress of any district or school. So the lowest bar in most cases indicates very low, then low, 2 bars, 3 bars are medium, 4 bars are high, and then 5 bars are very high, with the exception of chronic absenteeism and suspension rate. Because if you had a very low suspension rate, that would be very good. And if you had a very low chronic absenteeism rate, that would also be very good. So the state continued with that visual representation just for this year, the cell phone bar, but you'll notice that when you get to chronic absenteeism and suspension rates, you'll see the words very high, but it'll indicate visually very low. And you're not seeing things. That's accurate. And that is beyond my control. Okay? That was as clear as
But
mud.
the explanation makes a big difference from when you first look at the chart without the explanation.
I appreciate that
So what are you
feedback.
calling good and what are you calling bad?
Oh, goodness. Okay. So, So as I indicated before, the district met all of our local indicators, and that's pretty much decided upon in June, and then they're reported out 6 months later on the dashboard. Where we really need to focus is, how did all of our students perform in Sierra Sands on our dashboard overall, okay? So if you go to that slide, you'll notice that chronic absenteeism, our district measure was, our status was very high, which is an area of need and concern, okay? So suspension rate was also very high. That's an area of need and an area of concern. Our English learner progress is low. Graduation rate, medium. College and career was not reported on this in this year. English language arts, so that would be the state assessments, low. And mathematics, low.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
And are these values in some way based on kind of mean data across the state, or is this based on a certain bar you've got to reach?
So the State Board of Education, this was a reset of our dashboard because it was paused for several years due to the COVID pandemic. So it was kind of like being frozen under No Child Left Behind. That was the verbiage we would use. And so this is a reset of the dashboard. So how the metrics were determined, like what was considered low or medium or high in each of the indicators, was the State Board of Education approved those ranges in September. So if you go to the California Department of Education webpage, you'll see what the metrics are for very high, very low, medium, for the various indicators. They're not the same for each indicator, but there's a metric ascribed to that performance level.
But is that metric a raw number? I'm asking it badly, I think, or is it comparative across the state?
That's a challenging question to answer because, as my father-in-law would say, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. So do you recall in the former dashboard where we would have the status and the change, and there would be metric like If you had a suspension rate between 6 and 8%, that would be very high. So the metrics aren't determined by the mean or the average across the state. That's not how they're set. I don't know how to answer your question.
Well, the reason I'm asking is that I think we all know that the pandemic was horrible for, a lot of things in a lot of ways, but
Yes.
certainly in this room, specifically in educating our kids and, the social, emotional wellness of our kids. And so when I look at these numbers, this looks abysmal compared to what I would expect to see Sierra Sands look like in general. But, and that's not good. But if the rest of the state looks abysmal because we're coming out of this pandemic, then I'm a little less concerned. But if the rest of the state looks pretty good and we still look like this, now I'm really concerned.
I understand your question now. Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. So about 70 to 75% of all districts in California qualify for differentiated assistance. And the same statistics are in Kern County as well. So the majority of the 40-plus districts in Kern County qualify for differentiated assistance, and most districts qualified under the chronic absenteeism indicator rate and/or suspension. So we know that student engagement is a critical area of need that we are currently working on, but we won't know our results until later. And we do need to work on our suspension rates and improve our tiered supports to prevent suspensions.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that, yeah, these don't look good, but we didn't expect them to look good because they don't look good anywhere else either.
Essentially, I would say that our data is reflective of the norms across the state,
Yeah, okay.
with the exception of 25% of school districts.
Right, okay. Yeah, I think a lot of it is, what Ms. Abshire brought up is a kind of, chicken and egg in all of this, but, this is causing that, that's causing this. It's all kind of intermixed, and, somehow, no matter what it looks like across the state, we here locally need to figure out how to fix it.
Agreed. And so in order for our district, our board, and our community to understand, what actions might we consider that meet our local needs and address our particular needs, we need to understand our data first. So we make our recommendations grounded in evidence. So that's why I'm taking an extraordinary amount of your time this evening to really make sure that we understand our data. So I really appreciate your questions.
No, thank you.
So the next area of focus for the dashboard is student groups. And so we have student groups that the state identifies based on condition, and those are English learners, foster youth, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, and then we have groups based on ethnicity: African American students, American Indian, Asian, Filipino, Hispanic, Pacific Islander, 2 or more races, and white. In order for a student group to appear as a status on a dashboard, you would have to have 30 or more students to receive that performance level. So if you had 29, let's say you had 29 foster youth, we'd still report on our foster youth, but they wouldn't have a performance level on our dashboard. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, the next slide that you see is I've summarized all of our performance levels by our student groups in the district. I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I'd just like you to notice, we kind of talked about this at Superintendent's Council, I think, in January, and some of you were present there for this similar presentation. But as you gaze through the data based on our student groups, what 2 areas do you notice are in the very high category, and the very high meaning not good.
Socratic method here.
It wasn't rhetorical. I'm asking you, what two columns do you see that have most very highs?
Chronic absenteeism and suspensions.
Right, and that's reflective of all students, right? So you notice that most student groups are in the very high category. So when we analyze our data, we look at, okay, is this isolated or is this more widespread? And so to me, I see this is an all-student issue. And so it isn't isolated. We need a strategy that works for all students. We need to have a strategy for some students who don't respond to the all strategy, and we need a strategy for the few students. Another way to say that is probably tiered intervention. It's very intentional and repetitive so we can support our students. Do you have any questions for me on our student group data? I just thought it would be powerful to see that so that you were aware of areas of need. So that way, when we're considering our LCAP, we can really think about, okay, what actions are really serving these needs and what other actions might we consider?
So just for clarification, these numbers are sort of points above and below the mean? Or, yeah, it's like,
So in ELA and math, they have different scales for each grade level, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 11th grade. And they'll have a metric that states the student met the standard. And if you see a negative number in ELA, so like if you see our all students, you see a negative 27.1 points, that means on average, our students were 27.1 points shy of meeting standard according to the state test.
yep, okay, got it.
And then if you see above, that would indicate that students on average were above. Does that answer that question? Okay.
Yeah, it does. Again, I'm shocked at the numbers.
All right, I'm going to proceed then. Okay, so the next slide kind of indicates the differentiated assistance eligibility. A district qualifies for differentiated assistance if just one student group meets the criteria in 2 priority areas. So priority area 4 is student achievement indicators, such as CASP or English Learner Progress. Priority 5 is student engagement, and that could include the metrics of chronic absenteeism or graduation rate. And then priority 6 is school climate, and that's the suspension metric. And so you can see that we had multiple, I want to say we had 7 or 9. Was it 9? Lisa Decker, help me out. I think it's 9 too. All right, that's the next slide. So we had 9 student groups that qualified. Okay, so that's the next slide. And this slide kind of pares down those big areas of need from that very metric-heavy slide. And you can see which columns represent the greatest area of need. Again, it's important to know this. Yeah, it's the chronic absenteeism and suspension rate. So that's where we need to do our work. Not that the other areas don't deserve attention, but locally we need to prioritize our efforts. That's my message this evening, my counsel to the board. So what happens when a district is in differentiated assistance? Well, our county offices of education across the state are responsible for supporting districts who qualify for differentiated assistance. And we have a long-standing positive relationship with Kern County Superintendent of Schools. And they partnered with us the last time we qualified and then graduated from differentiated assistance, and that's what we'll do. That is what we'll do this time. And so they have a research-based process related to continuous improvement. And so if you'll entertain me walking through this loop of what the work we'll do is, we start at data analysis. And so we've begun our journey the last several months since the dashboard's been released. And we're heavy into data analysis, and we want to make our statements grounded in evidence, not theory yet, right? What does the evidence show? Then what we do is we develop a problem of practice. If we fill in the blank, then we should see blank. And that's really the story of the LCAP, right? If we prioritize these actions, then we should see an impact. And if you recall, Dr. Ostash talked about our choice and our commitment to counseling in elementary and middle school, and that has had a positive impact. We also will look at the root cause analysis of what maybe led to that problem of practice. We develop a theory of action, and then we work on the implementation phases, which is honestly the most challenging part, is really implementing all of the actions and doing that with fidelity to determine the impact of those actions. But that is the work of differentiated assistance. It's common sense. We own our data. We don't look out the window. We look in the mirror and say, what are we going to do about it? And what can we do to prioritize our actions? Okay? Any questions there? Okay. And then what does that look like at the district and then the site level? So we're required and have the benefit of writing our local control accountability plan. And so the first several pages of our LCAP will address our areas of success and our areas of need and kind of call out our actions of improvement. And so we'll do that work this spring together with the board, with our administrators, with our teachers, and with our community. And then at the site level, sites are required to develop their school plan for student achievement. And so sites will analyze their data and then update their school plans for student achievement based on their areas of need. And then I took the liberty, because I thought I know this, I know that our district's very data-driven, and I thought you might be interested in, did any of our sites qualify for site-level assistance? And that's what you see on your next page. So in addition to differentiated assistance for districts, school sites can be eligible for targeted support and improvement and additional targeted support and improvement based on student group performance. And so this is not unusual. All school sites should look at their student group performances. That's really why we have an LCAP, because student groups need extra support, right? If you're socioeconomically disadvantaged, you're going to have more headwinds than a student that doesn't. So some of our school sites qualified for additional targeted support and improvement. There's no funding associated with this. It's just the sites are responsible for looking at their student groups that underperformed and really thinking about their actions in their school plan to help those students move forward. That's what that means. And then lastly, we had 2 sites qualify for comprehensive support and improvement, and that was Mesquite, qualifying under a lower graduation rate, and then Pierce for performing in lowest or highest categories, all but one being low, which was math. And what's interesting about CSI is you can, our state and federal coordinator, Lisa Decker, can apply for CSI funding, and that's been very helpful to have other schools that have qualified for CSI to develop an action plan and to have the funding to support it. And on average, our CSI sites in the past, in Yukern and Mesquite, have received about $160,000 to move that needle forward on their areas of need. And so Ms. Decker did apply today for our CSI sites.
If I could interrupt just a second, would you do me a favor and go back to the third from the last slide? We do have new board members, and I'm just concerned that maybe our alphabet soup on that slide might be a little bit overwhelming. Could you give me
Can you tell me the name of the slide?
Number 12?
School site assistance designations.
school.
Okay.
Oh, number 13.
I don't have
Page
mine
thir-
numbered.
Oh, okay.
Can you give me the title of the slide?
School site assistance designations.
Okay. All right. The title of the slide is School Site Assistance Designations. So beyond targeted support and improvement, I promise Mr. Rockwell I'll stop talking at some point, and additional targeted support and improvement, the most helpful assistance is comprehensive support and improvement. And there were two ways a school could qualify, okay? So a school could qualify for low graduation rate, and that would be any graduation rate below 68%. So Mesquite qualified because their graduation rate in 2022 was less than 68%. But let's just pause there for a moment. Why does alternative continuation high school exist? What population do we serve in alternative education, continuation high school? Students who are behind credits, who need an extended runway to achieve graduation, and they can't achieve that in a cookie cutter 4 years, right? And so it's kind of interesting, right, to designate that, but that's our metric, and so that's why Mesquite qualified for comprehensive support and improvement. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah, so what I was really looking for is, there's, on that slide where you list the student groups,
Oh,
if you could just kind of define those,
student groups.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
Let me hop in real quick. So there's all those acronyms like EL is English learner and SWD is students with
I just want to make sure
disabilities.
everybody understands what
Yeah.
those groups really are.
AA is African American, EL is English learner, SED is
Socioeconomic.
socioeconomic disadvantaged. I was going to say
Students with
severely emotionally
disabilities.
disturbed, but that's just me.
Stop it.
I'm
That
not
was
sure.
all, that's all I was looking for, to make sure we're all on the same page about what those abbreviations mean. Thank you. Sorry, I was less clear.
Mrs. Campbell, did you have a question?
No,
Okay.
no, well, I was just going back to the eligibility, the chronic absenteeism and the suspension rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if when they're coming to school, they're getting suspended.
Well, it's a double whammy, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Exactly.
Right.
And then maybe that ties into what all the teachers are saying about accountability and consequences and things like that in the classrooms. And I mean, I know the last thing we want to do is suspend. I mean, but there needs to be consequences
Right.
for these, behaviors that are, because if one kid can ruin the whole class and no learning that day.
So one of the
So-
things that we do is we do a deep data dive. And recently, we began doing our work with Kern County Superintendent of Schools. And what's interesting is to do an analysis of the causes of suspension. So, for example, it's a what if. What if at site A, right? The majority of suspensions are drug paraphernalia related or something to that effect, right? So that could really, instead of like maybe defiance, right? So that could really drive how you intervene. That's the story I want to tell behind the data, because it does get overwhelming.
Absolutely.
Please know that we all do feel overwhelmed. It's just that I live with this on a weekly basis, so I have, what is that, shock therapy? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, or exposure therapy, there you go. So I have a higher fluency at this time, unfortunately, but what we really want to do is we want to look underneath that first layer of data to really drive our interventions and focus our attention. But I think you make a good point.
Yeah, maybe this is redundant, but I guess my thought on the suspensions is if we are not suspending to make these numbers look better, that's bad, right? What we want to do is address the underlying causes for the suspensions. If we can address the underlying causes for the suspensions, so that then we don't suspend and then the numbers get better, then that's good. But I do think
Or
there's.
find better tools.
Yeah, right. I mean, but I do think there are probably districts and school sites or whatever who don't suspend when they should just because they don't want these numbers to look so bad. And that would be, to me, that's a, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy, really, right? It's a
Right, and in our district, I think we're student-focused, right? And so we really want to look at what other supports might students need, right? Like through social workers, might our students who are in the highest trauma levels, might they need wraparound support? Right, and there's a lot of media coverage about, you know, polishing your suspension rates. We're not going to do that, I can assure you. That is not how we support students in this community. We want to look at each student one by one and kind of do that root cause analysis to see what can we do and what can the family do, how can we address this problem? Because if, to Mrs. Campbell's point, if you're not in school, you're not learning, and it's not getting any better. Does anybody want to know what the metric is for chronic absenteeism? That's fascinating too. So if a student misses 10% or more of the school year, they're chronically absent. Now think about last year. We had a must, if you had COVID, you're out for X amount of days. And so that's why most of the districts in California qualified for differentiated assistance. But what's fascinating is the county has done an analysis of chronic absenteeism rates of our district and most of their other districts that qualified. And unfortunately, but I think it's a product of our reality, it turns out that COVID's still here. And so students are still sick, so are staff. And so we still have similar chronic absenteeism rates as of February 2023.
well, the dynamic's different now, right? I mean, we see this, you know, in the working world too. You know, it used to be that if you had the sniffles or a cough or whatever, you just power through and go to school, go to work. And now it's if you have the sniffles or a cough, you think, oh, I might have COVID, I'll stay home. So it's a, you know, just a different world right now.
It is. We've had conversation amongst administration, and some of the administrators have asked me, can't we let the State Board of Education know that this is kind of an unfair metric, given the context of 21-22 and given the context of 2023? One would hope. So if you all have the opportunity at California School Boards Association, in terms of accountability, it would be very helpful to advocate for common sense accountability. Where
I'm not familiar with that word. Could you use it again?
Do you have any other questions about our dashboard and why we qualified for differentiated assistance and how that drives everything? Very much our local control accountability plan. Any other thoughts?
I guess my question.
Go ahead.
I guess my question would be, what happens if it doesn't get better?
We remain in differentiated assistance. That's the state. We haven't had the accountability system in a disrupted fashion. Right when our dashboard was rolling along for several years, it got interrupted by COVID and everything was paused. And this is actually a reset of our dashboard, because next year you're actually going to see colors and hopefully the cell phone bars go away, right? You'll see status and then change. If we are in this state for 4 years, then we're going to go into unknown territory. It's like, I can't remember the term, can you forgive me? I don't know what the next phase is, but we would have to be in differentiated assistance for 4 years to enter that next phase.
Thank you.
You are most welcome.
Any other questions from board members? Any questions from members of the public or staff? This was just a report. Thank you so much. I shouldn't say just a report, should I? It was a pretty significant report.
Yeah, thanks. It was very good, very helpful this year. Not that they aren't always.
And I appreciate you walking us through it, because just trying to look through it without all that support was pretty easy to get buried pretty quick, I think. That brings us to...
I guess we did have a question. She rose her hand.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Kathy McCoy, teacher at Pierce. It's not so much a question as a comment that I would like, as we look at this data and we analyze it and we talk about what we could do about it, that this doesn't become kind of a loaves and fishes type of situation where if we just ask those teachers to do more and spread themselves thinner, these things are going to change. I think a lot of what we're seeing here is lack of the adults on campus we need due to absences, due to unfilled jobs, and that when we look at that, we kind of look at what's the minimum we need instead of what's the point, what is the number that will help us to get to the achievement we want. And so I guess my question is, you know, are we thinking about that? Are we thinking not just in terms of, oh, well, the teachers aren't good at teaching math apparently, so we need to teach them how to teach math, because that's not necessarily what the situation is, but the numerous interruptions and students being called out because of needing to talk about things that happened at recess because of lack of supervision, pullouts for speech and RSP, and all of the other things where students, even though we don't want them to miss those things, you kind of have to when like I don't have my students in my room all together for more than probably a half an hour a day because they're being pulled out for things that they need. But are we going to be looking at this as far as, gosh, it kind of looks like as we have lost staff members, as we don't have teachers who are highly qualified because we're not able to hire that. We're helping people who have emergency credentials, which is fantastic, but that means that 10 years, compared to 10 years ago, where we maybe did have a higher ratio of teachers who had been through education classes and who had those skills ready, and not having the paras we need and not having the supervision on the playground, maybe that disruption is part of this, and having more adults on campus to be able to help the kids who need the things would be better than let's look at what the teachers maybe are needing to do, because none of us are sitting saying, oh gosh, I don't think I'm going to teach math today. That's not how it works. We're putting forth 100%. And so I would ask that you look at that as far as more people on campus, share the workload, use whatever money we're going to apply to this to get the students that help that they need, the more smaller groups, the more one-on-one situations, the more intervention that's not done maybe by the teachers after school because we're tired. So that is just my comment on that. I really hope that will be considered as we look at how we're dealing with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bev Eubank, principal of Inyakern. I just want to make a comment because being principal of a school that came out of program improvement, I want to let you know that, what's not program improvement, what is it called? CSI, sorry. It's been a very long day.
New acronyms.
Yeah, you know. But I want to tell you that at first when you find out that you are in this position, it's hard to think, okay, what is it that we can do to move forward? And what I have to tell you is that the experience at first was hard, and as we went through, it was an amazing experience. My staff, we came together, we had some great support through the district, the county, CNI, we had a great team that came together, and some of the information that we had to look at was hard. And one thing I'd have to say is that it was never finger pointing that what are we not doing, what are individuals not doing. It was actually looking at what do our kids need and how can we get our kids where we need them to be, and what can we do to help hone our craft to help our kids get where they need to be. Chronic absenteeism is very difficult. Suspension rates are very difficult. We don't keep from suspending just so that our data looks better. What we do though is that we have matrix that we have to follow about when we're allowed to suspend and when we are not allowed to suspend. And we have to try everything possible to mitigate change before we actually do suspensions. And that's something that we've changed at our school. That's things that we have worked through over time. Are we perfect? No. Our absenteeism rate right now It's really hard, but we're working on it. But getting back to where I started was, we were a school that went through this, and we graduated out. We work every single day to make sure that we can keep moving forward. And what I like to say to the schools that are in is that think of it as a positive way to make changes with a lot of support, and that it can be a very uplifting experience, and it can be a very positive professional growth arena. And I just think that it's a great opportunity. So I would just suggest and hope that everyone can look at it as an opportunity instead of a negative. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'd jump in. It would be nice if there was a silver bullet to fix all of these. If we could just say, hey, teachers, work a little harder, and we got it, then that'd be great, but it's not, right? I mean, I'm 100% confident that we're looking at each one of these issues in a comprehensive manner to figure out what all the different bits and pieces of the problem are so that we can solve everything that we can. So I'm not concerned that we're gonna penalize any specific group about any specific measure, but we're gonna look for every way we can think of to try to solve the problems.
Yes, I'd like to add to that thinking. So this is very daunting, and we should all acknowledge that it is overwhelming, and it can be, it can be very challenging to know where to start. We just start with the data, and we try not to jump that ladder of inference, right? Like, oh, this is clearly why, because it's actually surprising sometimes what's lying underneath that glacier, just to determine, what can we do, what kind of changes can we make in the system. And we start at the sites, right? The board holds the work of the district, and as you get closer to the sites, it's the administrative team and teachers and the whole school culture. But I would agree, Mr. Rockwell, it certainly isn't. There is no magic bullet, and I would like to emphasize that the process is called continuous improvement, not continuous blame, right? So we want to just get to a place where, how do we move that needle, even if it's just so? Because if we can help every student grow or help every student decrease their chronic absenteeism or decrease their suspension or discipline incidents, then that's favorable to all in the system.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone on this report? Thank you so much for that. That brings us to 6.4, presentation of the 2022-23 Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP mid-year report.
In 2013-2014, the enactment of the local control funding formula dramatically reformed California's educational funding system. The LCFF instituted a change in LEA accountability in the form of an annual local control accountability plan, or LCAP, with annual updates that focuses on services and outcomes for all students, with emphasis on English learners, low-income, and foster youth. The Sierra Sands Unified School District 22-23 LCAP outlines the district and board goals as aligned to the 8 state priorities, and our 4 LCAP goals are as follows. You might recognize these. 1, provide a rigorous academic program which promises college and career readiness. 2, maximize student engagement and achievement. 3, grow family and community partnerships that benefit students. And 4, develop, value, and retain a high-quality, diverse educational team. The board approved the Sierra Sands Unified School District 22-23 LCAP on June 23, 2022. The 22-23 LCAP mid-year report is intended to provide a broad overview of the LCAP implementation and is for informational purposes only. No board action is required. And we are proud of our one-page LCAP, and I'd like to walk you through this, because our real LCAP is about 100 pages, okay? So we're proud of our one-page LCAP. If you recall, that was the conversation at the state level, right, Mr. Ferris, that an LCAP should be just a couple of pages, Any district should be able to say, these are our priorities without a voluminous document. So what we wanted to do was take one page and give you a snapshot as to our implementation, not expenditures, not actuals, not estimates, but what is the work, what is the story of our LCAP, where are we at, okay? That's the intention. So I kind of scared Cabinet. I threw them for a loop when I walked them through this. They got a little scared when they saw the Fs here. Now, F is for full implementation. P is not for pass. It is for partial implementation. Why, you may ask? Well, the best laid plans of mice and men? It's a plan. It's not an LCAP forever. It's a local control accountability plan. So sometimes things happen and we may not be able to fully implement one of our actions. That's the point. All right, so where are we at? Under goal 1, we have 5 actions. Some would argue this, but we actually are fully implementing our home to school transportation services. Let's just accept that, okay? Because when things are in our control, we're fully implementing that action, okay? We are attempting to fully implement the class size reduction in our classrooms, given that we have sufficient staff. We are continuing to implement our advancement via individual determination classes at Murray, Monroe, and Burroughs. We are attempting to fully implement our CTE pathways at Burroughs. One of our pathways is not implemented this year, and I think that's medical careers. And then a partial implementation, which kind of echoes the story of our district and all of the comments tonight. In our LCAP, we are committed to providing additional secondary math teachers so that students can have increased individual support and instruction. That's partially implemented because we don't yet have sufficient baseline math teachers at Murray, at Monroe, and at Burroughs, right? So we can't reduce, we don't have enough on the baseline. We can't then add tier 2, like more teachers. Okay. Our second goal is to maximize student engagement and achievement. And Dr. Ostash talked about our first action there, continuing TK8 counseling services. That's fully implemented. We fully implement our student achievement data analysis software and programs. We are partially implementing our secondary academic intervention support. So those are academic interventions that occur outside the school day. We support the Math, English, Technology Skills course at Burroughs for at-risk freshmen. That's a full implementation. We provide English learner coordination supplemental support through Miss Jennifer Williams. That's fully implemented. We provide English learner support at the middle schools, so they have an ALOS class. And no, I don't remember what that acronym means, but it's good to give them that additional support. That's fully implemented. We provide supplemental English development support at Burroughs, fully implemented. We fully implement our high school credit recovery programs, including summer school. So about 5 years ago, we didn't have ongoing credit recovery. Now it's all the time, every semester. So that's reduced our need for summer school, but yet we still provide it. We partially implement the English learner teacher for high school credit recovery programs because that's not really needed as much anymore, and that's a good thing. So that means the action worked, and now we don't have to fully implement it. We fully implement our coordinator of student services to hold the work of student engagement and school climate. We fully implement our secondary support center teachers. We fully implement our PBIS support stipends so that teachers and admin are holding the work of interventions. Under Goal 3, growing family and community partnerships that benefit students, we're fully implementing our two-way school-to-home communication programs. So that would be like our websites and our parent squares. And then lastly, develop, value, and retain a high-quality, diverse educational team. Our action there is to continue our 3 non-student day professional development days for certificated staff. And typically, a few of those are are located before school, and at least one is during the school year where students don't come and our teachers come together to develop areas of need, whether it's SEL or academic.
Any questions from board members on the report?
So this is an area where the cell phone bars or the colored dots or something would be really nice instead of Fs and Ps. So,
I'll take your feedback. And I might give it an F. That is for full implementation, sir. Please let me go.
Any questions from members of the community or staff? Thank you for the report. That brings us to policy development and review. Ms. Decker, approval of revisions of board policy and administrative regulations 6164.6, identification and education under section 504.
Okay, I'm pinch hitting and this section is all mine. Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff and community. I'll try to make these quick. The Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction has reviewed selected board policies and administrative regulations as a result of recommendations for revisions from the California School Boards Association Policy Service. All proposed policy and administrative regulation revisions reflect recent changes in applicable state and/or federal laws and regulations. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6164.6, Identification and Education under Section 504, has been revised to reflect new federal regulations, which primarily revise definitions used in the Americans with Disabilities Act. There are no financial implications, and it is the superintendent's recommendation to approve the revisions to Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6164.6, Identification and Education under Section 504 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? Not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to 7.2, approval of revisions of the Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6159.1, procedural safeguards and complaints for special education.
I'm going to skip the background on all of these because it is the same.
Good.
Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6159.1, procedural safeguards and complaints for special education, have been revised to reflect the following: encouragement of early, informal resolution of any dispute regarding special education services, clarify that due process complaints should be filed with the State Office of Administrative Hearings and that such complaints must generally be filed within 2 years of the date the parent or guardian or district knew or should have known about the alleged violation. New state regulations which establish a complaint process separate from the Uniform Complaint Procedure for complaints alleging noncompliance with federal or state laws related to the provision of a free, appropriate public education to students with disabilities, such as the district's violation of the Federal Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, or state law on special education, violation of a settlement agreement, failure to implement a due process hearing order, or physical safety concerns that interfere with the provisions of FAPE. There are no financial implications, and it is the superintendent's recommendation to approve the revisions to Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6159.1, procedural safeguards and complaints for special education as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Rockwell.
Just one quick one. That first bullet, encouragement of early informal resolution of any dispute regarding special education services. Is there any way we can make, is there any way we can make that in bigger font and bolder font? Because that's huge these days, right? We spend so much time and so much money and so much distraction dealing with stuff, just all kinds of stuff. And if we could solve these things early and informally, Mr. Delbick's life would be infinitely better, and so would it. It'd be great for the, students, parents, everybody, if people could get on board with that. So thank you for playing that up in this, in these documents.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to 7.3, approval of revisions to Board Policy Administrative Regulation 5148.2, before and after school programs.
Okay, lots of changes. BP 5148.2 was updated to clarify that it applies to expanded learning opportunities beyond the regular school day, including before school, after school, summer, vacation, and/or intersessional programs, and to reflect new laws AB 181 and AB 185, which updates the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program requirements for the 22-23 school year and forward. Detailed information regarding various program collaboration requirements were moved to the administrative regulation. The AR was updated to include definitions of offer access and provide access in regard to expanded learning opportunities programs. Detailed information regarding program collaboration requirements were moved to the AR from the BP. They like to do this just to make me miserable. The AR was updated to reflect the same new laws as mentioned above, which update the ELO program requirements for the 22-23 school year and forward, including requirements for the district to offer access to ELO programs based on the district's prior fiscal year local control funding formula and unduplicated pupil percentage. The AR was also updated to clarify that districts receiving funds for classroom-based instructional programs serving TK through 6 cannot opt out of the ELO program funding, pursuant to the California Department of Education's Expanded Learning Opportunities Program Frequently Asked Questions. It was also updated to reflect the requirement that ELO programs are required to offer a nutritional snack, meal, or both to reflect California Department of Education guidance that ELO programs do not have an attendance requirement. That's different than our ACES program. There are no financial implications, and it is the superintendent's recommendation to approve the revisions to Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5148.2 before and after school programs as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions, board members, comments? Questions or comments from public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to 7.4, approval of revisions to Board Policy Administrative Regulation 5148.3, preschool early childhood education.
Okay. BP 5148.3 has been updated to reflect new laws, AB 210, AB 185, and SB 1047, to revise and update requirements for California state preschool programs, including requirements related to dual language learners, children with exceptional needs, and enrollment data collection and reporting. The AR has been updated to reflect the same new laws that I mentioned above, which revise enrollment criteria, priorities, and requirements for California state preschool programs. Sections of the regulation affected include eligibility and enrollment priorities for part-day preschool programs, eligibility and enrollment priorities for full-day preschool programs, which were reorganized and revised to comply with the law. Other updated sections are minimum hours and days of operation and staffing. The regulation was also updated to reflect new law AB 2806 with new requirements related to expulsion and unenrollment and/or suspension from a preschool program based on behavior. There are no financial implications, and it's the superintendent's recommendation to approve the revisions to BP and AR 5148.3, preschool early childhood education as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public, staff? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to 7.5, first reading of the Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6178.1, work-based learning.
Okay. This is actually a new proposed policy and administrative regulation for the district and the board's consideration. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6178.1 describes the work experience education opportunities offered for high school career technical education students, which link classroom learning with real-world experiences. There are no financial implications, and this is the first reading of this board policy and administrative regulation, and I will bring this back to the board in March for final approval.
Okay, as a first reading, does anyone have any questions or comments on what they've read? Any questions or comments from members of the public on this presentation? As is presented for first reading, it will come back for us to approve at a later date. So we move on to 7.6, approval of revisions of Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6178, Career Technical Education.
Okay, last one. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6178 was last revised in December of 2018. This policy has been updated to reflect legal requirements and recent changes in laws. Procedures are clearly outlined and identified according to recommendations by CSBA. The updated policy moved material regarding career technical education program components to be with related content, which no longer authorizes a course in career technical education to serve as an alternative to the visual or performing arts or world language course requirement for high school graduation. And it also encourages districts to host apprenticeship and/or career technical education fair events, such as college and career fairs, and for districts that do hold such events to notify apprenticeship programs in their county as specified. There are no financial implications, and the superintendent's recommendation is to approve the changes to Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6178, Career Technical Education, as presented.
Move to approve recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Decker. Brings us to 7.7, approval of revisions to the board bylaw 9323, meeting conduct. Dr. Ostesh.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ferris. I've reviewed selected board policies, administrative regulations, and bylaws as a result of recommendations from CSBA. And Board Bylaw 9323, meeting conduct, was updated to reflect new law, Senate Bill 1100 in 2022, which authorizes the board president to remove an individual for disrupting a board meeting, establishes a procedure for warning the individual prior to the removal, and defines disrupting and true threat of force. I recommend that the board approve the revisions to Board Law 9323, meeting conduct, as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Go ahead.
I don't really know what to say, other than, I wish we didn't have to do this. I like the fact that we can do this, and I'm dubious about the opportunity to ever really put it into effect, but good on us for keeping up with the law.
Yeah, it's too bad that the civil nature of our society has deteriorated to where this is on our agenda, but it is, and so be it. Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to 7.8, approval to rename suggested policy titles to March CSBA policy titles, to match CSBA policy titles.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. This was a big project. This is we hope we don't have to do this very often. We like a lot of districts, subscribe to Gamut Policy Plus, which is a service provided by the California School Boards Association to help the district update and maintain current school board policies. The The program grants access to 700 sample policies, regulations, bylaws, and exhibits that are updated by CSBA on a regular quarterly basis. CSBA has updated the program with a new technology platform that has a built-in translation feature and uses a uniform codification system, such as policy numbering system, that allows us to search across CSBA's sample policies and the adopted policies of more than 600 other districts in California, and enables CSBA to push updates directly to our site as drafts whenever updates are released. As part of the transition to the new platform, CSBA has identified policies that are unique to our district so they can be added to the codification system in Gamut. This will allow us to keep our unique policies. In creating the list, CSBA identified several policies that are unique to our district but are similar to existing CSBA sample policies. This was a real treat for Cabinet to work through all this, and Diane. CSBA is recommending that we rename the policies to match the CSBA title in the codification system so that we are alerted to updates that are likely to impact our unique policy. At this time, the only change will be to the title of the policy. So we, in Cabinet, have on a few different occasions reviewed the proposed title changes and have confirmed that the district policy content aligns with the new title. A spreadsheet showing the current and proposed policy titles is attached for your pleasure to review. There is no cost to update the policy titles. I recommend that the board approve renaming the attached policies to the new CSBA policy titles.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. So I just want to comment that before we move from this area that this signifies a lot of important and good work. And I don't want this part of the comment to be misinterpreted because there are a lot of good things that happened in here. But I think if you look at the proportionality of what things we changed in our policy because they were dictated by state law versus what things we did because of decisions by this board and this district, there will be no question about who dominates the decisions in public education, and it's not the local school board or district. Okay, we move on to personnel administration.
Move 8.1 through 8.4.
I have a motion for 8.1 through 8.4.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions on or comments on 3, 4, or 5? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to 8.5, presentation of initial sunshine contract proposal for 2023-24 from the Chapter 188 of the California School Employees Association, CSEA, to the Board of Education.
Before I start, if I might, I feel guilty, Dr. Sapko, Mrs. Decker, to get half of my stuff done just like that. When
we know who's strong and who's weak in this room.
They worked hard tonight. Okay, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. Chapter 188 of the California School Employees Association will submit its initial sunshine contract proposal for the 2023-24 year to the Board of Education at the meeting, and I'd like to accept that on your behalf. The financial implications are unknown, and it's the superintendent's recommendation that the board receive the initial sunshine contract proposal from Chapter 188 of the California School Association as presented.
We will accept that proposal, and we will...
Now for the ceremonial exchange.
Yes, there we go.
Where's the music?
They left earlier. They couldn't stand it. Okay, thank you for presenting that. We received it, and we move now to 8.6, authorization of revision for the classified position network service technician.
At the May 2020 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, a new cabinet-level administrative position was approved. That was the Chief Technology Officer, or CTO. The employee serving as the Director of Technology at that time was assigned to this new position. However, the Director of Technology position was not immediately filled and remained vacant until 2021. On May 1st, 2021, the network service technician was promoted to the Director of Technology position, and his previous position was not immediately filled either. With the addition and subsequent implementation of the district's PLT network and the increasing demands placed on the district's technology department, it is necessary to fill the network service technician position with the intent of doing so effective July 1, 2023. However, as the current CTO and the Director of Technology reviewed the current job description, it was determined that a number of modifications were necessary for the job description to more accurately describe the scope of work and the education and training necessary to qualify for the position. The revised job description is included in the board packet. Financial implications: the network services technician will remain a range 39 on the classified salary schedule. As such, the cost to fill this position should not exceed $69,000, which excludes statutory benefits. Funding for this position will continue to come from the general fund. It is the superintendent's recommendation excuse me, that the board approve the revisions of the classified position network services technician as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? Staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to 7.7, approval of revisions to board bylaw 9392. Wait a minute, I'm on the wrong spot here. Let's don't go back, huh?
No. Yeah.
This is kind of connected, though. There is a connection here.
8.7, authorization of new certificated management position, elementary school assistant principal, ESAP.
Although it is not uncommon for elementary sites and other districts across the state of California to assign 2 administrators, a principal and an assistant principal, at elementary sites with a student population appropriate for that level of support, Sierra Sands has not held that practice. Therefore, there currently is not a board-approved job description for an elementary school assistant principal position. Conditions at many of our district elementary sites have evolved recently, making it necessary to add an additional administrative position. The rationale for adding an additional administrative position include, but are not limited to, the following. Unlike many districts in the state, Sierra Sands is not in declining enrollment. At many of our elementary sites, we have maintained pre-pandemic enrollment numbers, or in some cases, enrollment has increased slightly. Therefore, several elementary sites have reached or have nearly reached their enrollment capacity. Number 2, universal transitional kindergarten has been implemented at each of the district's 6 elementary sites and is expected to grow considerably in the next few years. Number 3, as is the trend across the state, the district's percentage of students with disabilities has increased significantly over the past many years. This increase has significantly impacted elementary site principals who must attend each IEP meeting, as well as growing numbers of student success team meetings and parent meetings. And number 4, consistent with districts statewide, we are experiencing increasing numbers of elementary age students who require tiered interventions to support academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs. District dashboard data and district performance results indicate need for improvements related to chronic absenteeism and suspension, as well as student engagement and school climate. Among the reasons outlined above, elementary school principals throughout the district have found that their capacity to be an instructional leader has been eroded considerably. Therefore, it has become necessary to provide additional administrative support. Under the supervision of the site principal, the elementary school assistant principal will help to ensure a positive learning environment for all students through the development, implementation, and support of school improvement goals and related actions. Additional support is focused on the unduplicated pupil percentage, student population in the areas of academic achievement, student engagement, and school climate. Financial implications: the district plans to hire up to 5 elementary school assistant principals. The assistant principals will be a Class 8 position on the management team salary schedule. As such, the salary cost will not likely exceed $98,850, which excludes statutory benefits per position. Therefore, the total cost to the district will be up to approximately $750,000. The district plans to use restricted funds for this cost. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the new certificated management position, elementary school assistant principal, as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members?
So the action is to approve up to 5 of these positions. The intent is not to immediately run out and hire 5 of these positions, or is it?
The intent is to implement this as of August 2023, 2024. There is a subsequent additional action, depending on how this goes, that might contribute to a consideration about what if we're unable to fill those positions. But it is the intent to only have one support personnel, one additional support personnel, whether it's administrative or otherwise, without getting ahead of us on the agenda.
Yeah, I just, you know, as we talk about not having enough staff to fill classrooms at sites and, you know, needing more teachers and more, you know, just more, it's, while I understand the significant need for, I mean, it's like if we had an infinite checkbook, this would be a no-brainer. It's probably a no-brainer anyway, just because we probably do need the support, but it's kind of a tough one, because the number of people we have to support the kids is limited, and we're talking about taking 5 people essentially out of the classroom in this process. I would just, I mean, since the money pot is finite, so I'm struggling with it a little bit, I guess.
If I might add a different perspective, although I understand exactly where you're coming from, that's one of my concerns every time we talk about additional positions. However, we also recognize that, you know, especially in our district, in our community, generally speaking, building capacity from within is the best way to develop future administrators and leaders. And building capacity or providing a stepping stone was also, you know, something that we recognize that this would provide. So while I agree with you and I understand that concern, and I definitely I share that concern, we do have those in our district whom have been pursuing or have already earned an administrative credential, especially at the elementary sites, where it's basically all or nothing from the perspective of administrative experience. And so this does provide an opportunity for us to grow our own, so to speak, for those who are interested in it and want to pursue that. But obviously your concern is very valid.
I'm just thinking we need more teachers, like to lower class sizes. I don't, our principals are doing amazing. I mean, I don't know. Do they need that extra support, or do we need more teachers to lower class sizes?
You know,
I'm just.
I understand what you're saying. I visited 2 of the elementary schools, and I've noticed that the principals, not saying that a teaching job isn't just as important, because I don't want to sound like that, but our principals are overwhelmed with just, in the elementary schools, with just so many different things going on at one time, and with behavioral problems and so forth. And I'm so gracious that we've added a counselor to the elementary schools, and I think this is another way that we can actually help our teachers by allowing us to have that second person working with that principal on discipline and different things that go on in the elementary schools.
I think also there's a serious issue here about talking about the instructional support that teachers need from principals to grow better teachers and to allow them to do their job in a more productive way, and can sometimes be the encouragement to allow them to continue. The fact that we're losing teachers is part of the problem as well. So I think we're creating an environment where teachers can be successful because they have the support they need. And I think we have to decide that we aren't just working with a finite pool and that we can't attract anybody else. We're going to have to attract somebody else, and we can't not provide the support they need because we can't bring somebody else in. We're gonna have to solve that problem too. And so I think it would be a real mistake for us not to do this, assuming we're not going to address the situation of attracting more people to the profession. And this problem isn't unique to us. I mean, truly, if you look across the entire nation, there is a significant concern about the pipeline and about what are we going to do, because, I mean, the reality is public education is the backbone of what makes our country great. And we have got to find a way to highlight the value and importance of the institution as well as all those that work within it. And we have to work that in our level, in every job we do, but in the broader level as well. And that's why I keep harping on these things about places we need to make our voices heard and other levels of government, because it is a bigger problem, and we can't just address it in one area. We've got to address it in a broader sense.
Address, like, discipline, or what are we addressing? Like, I get the support.
The support, overall
Yeah,
support.
overall support. Which is great. I'm not knocking that, and the kids are our future, and we want them there. I mean, can we pilot one and see if it works? I mean, I don't know. I mean, why do we have to do all 5? And it's not like I'm against it. I mean, it's just.
So I could answer that. In a way, we did pilot that. A year ago, we brought a position, an APOS, an assistant principal on special assignment. And we filled that position, and although that person could be assigned wherever needed, we've asked, or we've assigned that person to really split their time between 2 elementary sites. I could speak on behalf, I think, of both principals at that site, that person is very, very busy, impactful, and absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And missed on the days when she's at the other site. Yeah, so
I agree with
so
you.
I mean, to an extent, we have piloted it, and we have found that there's value to it. But there's the other side of the coin that Mr. Rockwell brings up that's a concern.
But I can offer up, I mean, those are all of these are great questions and responses, but the short answer is yes, we can do that. We can do anything that makes sense for us. You know, if, we have position control and approval and budgeted, but if, we're gonna make dynamic decisions week by week, month by month, and so if we get to July and August and we have critical mission issues, we're always gonna be able to respond in the best way we believe we should respond. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just listening to the teachers as well, and, just the whole thing, it's yeah.
So the thing that's interesting to me, we don't have thousands of people in the room right
No,
now.
I know.
But as we're talking about this, the teachers I see in the room are the ones that are vigorously nodding like, yeah, we need this, right? So to me, that speaks very loudly.
And I just want to offer, we know we need this because we've actually spent years analyzing this and collaborating with our management team and with leadership teams at schools. This is actually a very dated interest within our district, but we have sort of we have an alignment of resources that are available to us, and when we make systematic decisions about how we commit funds, I want to emphasize these are restricted funds, so this does not come out of the general fund. It doesn't impact, the general fund where we collectively bargain and such. And so we have a finite amount of restricted funds that we can use for specialized services, and through a real collaborative process over years, we've identified that this is a very high priority need, and that doesn't mean there aren't a multitude of other ways that it could be invested or spent, not to discount those others, but this really kind of rose to the top through a very collaborative process.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff?
Elizabeth McNamara, Pierce Elementary School teacher. I just wanted to speak to your concern. I think that one of the things we aren't discussing is that these vice principal positions will contribute to culture and climate, and how many teachers you are losing because the culture and climate has fallen because of student behavior, because of lack of teacher support, both in the classroom and instruction within students. And this position, at least at Pierce, because we do have the assistant principal part-time, has opened up opportunities for these teachers to want to remain in the job, want to remain in the classroom. We take bad pay because we love the kids, we love our job.
Right.
But it's hard to stay at a job where you don't have the love and support, and that's what these AP positions are offering. They're offering another person to help us survive, help us thrive. And I would like to offer that to the board.
No, perfect.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to hear that. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions from the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to 8.8, authorization of new certificated position, elementary teacher on special assignment support and intervention.
So this is what I was referring to when I was responding to the question. The considerations are exactly the same. I will read the background information, however, to try to provide some context. Although it is not uncommon for elementary sites and other districts across the state to assign 2 administrators, I guess I did share that, there currently is not a board-approved job description for an elementary school assistant principal position. And we were able to just have a positive vote on that. So moving forward, we would like to bring to the board an additional position. And this is a position of a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment, that would specifically address support and intervention at the elementary site. So if you get to, I know I skipped around, I didn't want to be redundant. Somebody got in trouble for that earlier. So
I think you should go ahead and read for where it says, given the statewide shortage, because it does kind of describe how we want to add flexibility.
okay. Given the statewide shortage in qualified certificated teachers and administrators, the district is interested in adding flexibility for how we can recruit, retain specialized personnel for student support and intervention. It is a priority for the district to provide additional support to our elementary principals as a strategy. It may be beneficial for the district to be able to hire a TOSA position. In addition, it is possible that some of the district's current certificated staff could have the experience and skills to serve in a support role to the principal. However, they might not yet be qualified to apply for an administrative position. In special note, the district will only employ one of the 2 positions, either the elementary school assistant principal or the TOSA at each site. Skipping down to beneath the bulleted items there. Among the reasons outlined above, elementary school principals throughout the district have found the capacity to be, I've already read that part, sorry. So this is, I'm trying to navigate a situation where what if we don't have enough qualified people? And we've identified this as a priority. What flexibility can we have for especially somebody whose interest in administration is just emerging? They haven't enrolled in a program and aren't necessarily qualified to apply for that assistant principal position. How might we provide that support if we fall short with the assistant principal, the number of assistant principal candidates we have? If you look at the financial implications, the district plans to hire up to 5 TOSAs, given the specific financial, implementation is not known as it will depend on how many positions are necessary. However, it is estimated that if a TOSA is hired in place of, rather than in addition to, an assistant principal, the cost will be similar. The total cost for providing one support personnel to the principal will be up to approximately $750,000. The district plans to use restricted funds. The reason why it would be similar is because the position would be, the calendar days would need to be extended.
I move that we approve the new certificated management position, elementary teacher on special assignment, support and intervention as presented.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. That will bring us to general administration, but I don't know about anybody else. I got to take about 30 seconds and stretch a second.
Don't wear out those old clothes.
But not 5 minutes.
Yoga. Come on, man.
I know, these people. Jeez. I'm just standing up because I have to.
Yeah, you don't want to make you look bad.
Yeah,
So I appreciate the support.
You guys gotta do more yoga. Yeah. Crack, 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 crack,
Only
crack,
one?
crack. Oh, Mr. Bill. Oh, Mr. Bill.
Yes, I know. I'm well aware.
Gotta do some yoga.
I kept thinking, we'll get there soon. We'll get there soon. No, we're not going to get there soon. Can't wait, huh? Maybe we can get you an assistant, a 2-day assistant.
So where are these? Where's the leadership? Where are they coming from? Bakersfield? No. Lancaster? Oh, okay. Yep, they're gonna be here at 9:30 tomorrow morning. I thought.
But we don't meet until
2:30. Yeah. Oh.
not for us. For stakeholder groups.
Come on, old man.
Okay, thank you for indulging. We move to 9.1 gifts to the district. Mr. Rockwell.
The following gifts were received. Floyd and Dana Castillo made a cash donation of $500 to be used for the annual Amy Castillo Covert Scholarship Fund at Mesquite High School. And Dan and Cheryl Warren made a cash donation of $1,000 to be used for school supplies at Inyokern Elementary. Donations provide support to the district and have a positive financial impact. I move that we accept the gifts as described and send appropriate letters of appreciation.
Okay, thank you for the indulging. We move to 9.2 gifts to the district. Mr. Rockwell.
The following gifts were received. Floyd and Dana Castillo made a cash donation of $500 to be used for the annual Amy Castillo Covert Scholarship Fund at Mesquite High School. And Dan and Cheryl Warren made a cash donation of $1,000 to be used for school supplies at Inyokern Elementary. Donations provide support to the district and have a positive financial impact. I move that we accept the gifts as described and send appropriate letters of appreciation.
I have a motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion with a second. Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Accepted unanimously. Brings us to 9.2, authorization of board member travel to the annual school trustees winter dinner meeting of the Kern County School Boards Association.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. For many years, it has been protocol that the board authorize its own travel. The annual school trustees winter dinner meeting of the Kern County School Boards Association and the Kern County Superintendent of Schools Office will be held on February 27 in Bakersfield. All 5 board members have indicated they'll be attending with an estimated cost as shown below. It looks like it's about $325 total cost for all 5 board members. The travel budget for the board for this year is $30,000. To date, however, approximately $18,964 in travel costs have been approved, so there's plenty of room in the budget. In accordance with the board's adopted protocol, it is recommended that the board review the proposed travel and determine if it wishes to authorize this travel activity.
Yes, we need a motion to approve.
I move that we authorize this travel.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments, board members? Any questions or comments, members of the public or staff? Those of you who are diehards and still here?
I hear that we have the opportunity to learn from one of Kern County's graybeard experts on some topic.
I don't know about learning, but you can hear. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? It is unanimous. Okay, that brings us to item 3, California School Boards Association CSBA Delegate Assembly Election.
I'm going to just summarize the background information because I've read it before, but we know that the California School Boards Association has many layers of opportunity for members to get involved, and this one is related to the delegate assembly election. We covered this a couple months ago, and there are 4 vacancies in subregion 12B of the CSBA Delegate Assembly for which there are 4 candidates. One of them is our own. The 4 candidates are Jim Beltran of McFarland Unified School District, Mr. Kurt Rockwell right here of Sierra Sands Unified School District, Keith Woolridge of Panama Buena Vista Union School District, and Shannon Zimmerman of Bakersfield City School District. The board may vote for up to 4 candidates. No more than 1 vote can be cast for any one candidate. So
So I would like to move that we vote for all 4. Since there are only 4, it will not negatively affect Mr. Rockwell's vote, and we'll give support to all 4. So I make that motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments, board members? Any questions or comments, public, staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Rockwell.
Thank you.
On getting your board support.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Item 4, approval of school safety plans for 22-23. Mr. Ald.
Every school in the district has a comprehensive school safety plan developed in accordance with education code requirements and that follows the guidelines set forth in the State Emergency Management System and the National Incident Management System, as well as recommendations of Safe Schools, a planning guide for action prepared jointly by the California Department of Education and the Office of the Attorney General. In accordance with BPAR 0450 and the Education Code, each school has reviewed and, as needed, revised and updated their school safety plans. Plans were reviewed by staff, school site councils, site safety committees, and first responders. The revisions were approved accordingly at the site level. The school safety plans meet the requirements of Education Code and BPAR 0450 and are being submitted to the Board of Education for approval. These are lengthy documents and as such are available for review in the Human Resources Office or individually at the school sites prior to the February 16, 2023 board meeting. There are no financial implications. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the 2022-2023 school safety plans as presented.
Move to approve recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments, board members? Questions or comments, members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to construction administration. 10.1, approval of an agreement with Acryl Inspection Services Limited for in-plant inspection services for the Richmond Elementary School project. Mr. Coit.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Ostash, staff, and community. In November 2022, the district was awarded a grant from the Department of Defense, Office of Local Community Cooperation for the construction of a replacement Richmond Elementary School. The project is subject to the Division of State Architect requirements, and it is necessary to have an in-plant inspection service during the permanent modular building construction. The district requested a proposal from Arkell Inspection Services, LTD, for these services. In-plant inspection will be performed in accordance with the California Code of Regulations at Milas Modular Buildings, Inc., Lodi, California, by an approved in-plant inspector. Steel fabrication inspection for this project will be performed by an American Welding Society certified welding inspector. Material testing that may be required on the testing and inspection list would be at a cost of plus 15%. Financial implications, the cost for the services is $79,317. This will be funded by the OLDCC grant funds at 80% and Fund 40, 20%. It is recommended that the board approve an agreement with Arkell Inspection Services LTD for in-plant inspection services for the Richmond Elementary replacement project as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Brings us to business administration. 11.1, approval to enter into an agreement with the Central Restaurant Products for one double stack convection oven for the James Monroe Kitchen.
James Monroe has a cooking kitchen that provides 500 meals per day for James Monroe students. The kitchen also supports the district summer feeding program. The double convection oven is not working, and the cost to repair the oven would be more expensive than replacing the oven completely. The district solicited quotes for replacement oven, and Central Restaurant Products was selected as the vendor best meeting the requirements. The cost for the oven is $11,300.22, and funding will come from Fund 13, the cafeteria fund. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the agreement with Central Restaurant Products for one double stack convection oven as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Ms. Smith, would you like us to ask you lots of questions
Oh my
since you had to
gosh.
wait all evening long for this one single item?
Are they eating cold lunches these days?
Anyone in the public or staff have any questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you for waiting all this time for your giant. We will now temporarily adjourn the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education to conduct the meeting of the Indian Kern Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors meeting. If there are any changes to the agenda. If there are no changes, the only item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes. If there are no corrections, they will stand as presented, and we will reconvene. We will adjourn the meeting of the Indian Kern Schools Financing Authority and reconvene the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education to move to the consent calendar.
Move the entire consent calendar.
Consent calendar has been moved and
Second.
seconded. Any questions or comments on the consent calendar? Questions or consent calendar from the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Future agenda items. Does anybody want to make the next agenda longer than this one?
So,
Is that a yes?
yes, no, I don't want to make it longer, but I do. So I am not sure if this is appropriate. I'm not sure how to do it. I'm not sure exactly what the right mechanism is, but, and it may not be really board purview. It may be Dr. Ostash and staff more so than board, but, you know, we've heard loudly here tonight and in emails previously and other forums that just behavior in the classroom is not what it ought to be, I guess, to put it mildly. And I'm just wondering if there's not an opportunity for, I don't know, a workshop or something to seriously look at the problem and try to come up with solutions that, you know, might help. And my concern is, not that I think we as a board are, you know, the practitioners that know how to fix some of these things, but, you know, I am on board with the sentiment that just because some of the tide in the state is to, you know, I don't know, I'll use bad English. I'm not sure exactly what the right words are to use, but sort of to coddle the problems as opposed to finding solutions and fixing the problems. I'm wondering if there's not a kind of a local approach that we could take to solving these problems that are being frankly exacerbated by decisions at the state level. So I think I probably did that very badly, but
it needs to be addressed.
I think if you did nothing, you talked about the frustration of the issue, and I think that is clear. It is a problem in this district and in many districts. My sense is that we may need to get some kind of education on where we are and what we are doing, and that may be the best approach. Dr. Ostesh, do you have a comment?
It's very complex. I think that the laws have impact on the ways that we manage, you know, citizenship and such. I also think there are, you know, societal and cultural implications that are very complex that I wouldn't even begin to try and, you know, figure out. But I do think there probably are approaches that we could take to show our interest. I think it connects right back to Dr. Savko's discussion about where we are with the dashboard and looking at the ways that we, you know, serve students and looking at our suspension rate and looking at chronic absenteeism, and all of that is wrapped together. So, I guess I'm thinking on my feet. One of the things is with differentiated assistance, there's that loop of productivity, and part of that's data analysis. My best guess is that maybe we could tie in some, either a workshop or some updates on how we as a district are progressing through that process. You know, what we're discovering, what we're noticing, and, you know, being, you know, transparent about that and making sure that the board is included and therefore the community, and then kind of see where it goes. And as we move through that process, maybe it leads us to another assessment from the board that says, okay, we've learned a little bit more about the problem, and then maybe there's more direction by the board at that point.
yeah, I mean, I think there's sort of the normal process we go through each year to, you know, do stuff and then evaluate how the stuff happens and decide how to do stuff differently next time and then evaluate that. And, you know, and that's good. That's the whole continuous improvement process. I think this sort of area, to me, you know, not to say that that everybody's not working their tail off to try to get there, but, you know, from a visibility perspective and understanding perspective, you know, for the board and the community, you know, I think this kind of area, we need to ratchet that up a little bit, is just sort of my perspective. And so over to you as to how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't prescribe how to do that, and I wouldn't say that I've got any magical solutions, but I sure would like to be a part of figuring it out if I can be, so.
You know, I know that as an educator, you know, in the past, you know, you would deal with the issues in the classroom, and you know, I think it really does start with the family, and it starts at home and what's happening at home. And I do like that I saw last week Mr. Wythe is having a program to work with parents that are having problems with their kids, and I think that's a great thing that we've started. You know, I think that's part of the process is that we've started is, you know, you got to get to the home and get to the parents and help them if they're having trouble dealing with their own children. So I do think that's a start. So,
Mary, I cut you off earlier, I think.
I'm excited. Yeah, no, good. Absolutely. It was escalating even when I was in there, you know. And why? It's hard to put your finger on it. But personally, I think all kids want to be good, and something's driving them somewhere. You know, it could be the phones, parents, everything, home life, bullying, whatever. But they need to have that security as well that they can be good. And start young. Like Mr. Scott said, you know, there's the DARE program, start young, you know, when they're 2 months. No, just kidding. No, but
So
yeah.
you're never mind.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
Yeah. I think it needs to be addressed somehow.
Thank you. Okay, hearing nothing else, we will adjourn. The next meeting of the Board of Education will be March 9th. That's the next regular meeting. The next meeting will be tomorrow at 2:30.
March 9th.